Hey guys, Nugi here. Today we're gonna talk about maps. Maps. So maps are pretty much the current end game, or part of the current end game of Path of Exile. So there's the Exile fight, the Exile, and then there's the maps. Those are the two things people would probably consider in game right now in PoE. And a lot of people ask me, how do I get into maps? How do I roll my maps? How do I get higher maps? First off, how do you get into maps? So the way you get into maps is by getting to a zone that is, I think it's 60 plus. And then when you're in a level 60 plus zone, you can start drawing maps and you will get the entry level 66 maps. These are the Dried Lake, Overgrown Ruins, you see all these are 66 maps. So a lot of people ask me, okay, how should I roll my first maps? Well, depending on how much you have to start with, you might not even need to roll them at all. Some of these maps, like Tropical Island, have great inhabitation for like early specs, like they're super easy and you just roll through them. This means that these you can control, or you can avoid some of the harder zones. Like docks can actually be pretty scary. Fire dogs can be really annoying for melee. The constant chill ground and the burst and all that in docks can be quite scary. We have catacombs, another zone which is 67 if you want to go up to the higher, but which has a lot of cold damage, a lot of slows in there, a lot of fast moving monsters and corridors. That could be annoying as well. Lunaris has Voln with the whippers, the titty bitches and all that, can be extremely dangerous, so you might want to avoid this. So why not just start doing maps straight away? PoE Grinding Games has recently increased map sizes. They did say they balanced them around having the same amount of map drops overall, but it does seem like we are getting more maps now. At least we're getting a lot more XP from every map. Because of this, at least every map now feels as if it was rolled with either area or maze from before, so the XP is quite a lot higher right now because of that. And the maps seem pretty easy to obtain now. There is something called cartographer boxes as well, and I'll briefly talk about that as well, because boxes are something we don't know exactly how they're going to keep, but they are going to keep them in some way at least. So for the first map, what you want to do is you either want to run it wide or you want to run it really easy. So what I like to do is I like to just throw, if I have a lot of 66 maps, and this often happens, like I don't start mapping until I have like 10, but by the time you're around 66 to 69, 70, you should have around 10 maps if you've been soloing. If you play in a group, this will go slower because map drops are not affected by the amount of players. So if you have 6 people running through a zone, you are all going to be fighting for the same amount of map drops. So if you split up, that means you get more maps. And then what I like to do, I like to just like transmute a bunch of these, as you can see here, and then just see what can I run. Because I don't like re-rolling low level maps, because you will get, and this always happens, you will get a ton of these. So I just run whatever I can. Like monster variety, pack size, awesome. Pack size, fish reflect. If you can deal with fish reflect, this is one of the best mods you can get. The things you wanna be worried about here is what is the boss in the zone, what is the inhabitation, the signature mobs in the zones. For instance, Orchard and Dried Lake and these kind of things, they can roll Devourers. Some people hate Devourers. We have the Overgrown Ruin. They often have the demons, the whippers, and the titty bitches, and the humanoids with the lightning thorns and all that. That can be dangerous. The same about Grotto can also have the lightning thorns. There's a lot of different things here that you need to know about. But let me show you a place where you can get some information at least. It's not completely updated, but it has a lot of good information. So the area mods have been taken away, and there's a few changes, but overall this is some place where you can get a lot of info. Let me show you. So it's the map management resource. I will link the forum post below. But what you can see in here is that things to know. Monster type varies from map to map, as I just said. Pack size varies from map to map. This is that some maps have very narrow corridors, so they can't spawn as many monsters. Other more open maps, and you get pack size there, poof, the entire thing is just covered. Though I think they have improved upon this. Though it does seem that even in the more tightly knit maps, that there can be a ton of monsters. Then we have something like damage affixes that you should learn about, but I would really recommend you to go in here and read some of this. Extra damage affixes only function as the physical. This is also why, for instance, on like Palace, if you get extra damage, and because they have the evangelists that put the physical spell on the ground, this will get buffed by the physical or the percent damage as an element, like monster deal extra damage with fire. That's gonna affect those, meaning that they're gonna be crazy difficult. Normally spellcasters don't benefit from this, but those in particular do. Deadly is probably one of the most dangerous mods as well. 35% extra damage from every single source. That's crazy. Be very careful with that. It's going to affect physical damage as well, so they do more physical, meaning that if you're relying on armor and something hits you with deadly on it and it has extra damage on it as well, your armor is going to count for 0 and you're just going to like be flattened straight away. Something to be careful about. Something like the half regen. Half regen, a lot of people don't understand, but that also affects leech rate, as leech is actually life leech is actually a regen that's applied to you as you attack monsters. Life gain on hit, however, is not affected by this, so there's that. But yeah, you should go check these out. They have some very great info about most of these maps that you can read about. If you're in doubt what kind of boss is in there and all that, go read up. But let me talk a little bit more about how I run maps. So now we have all the information about maps. Now we know how to start maps. When should you start chiseling? So chiseling is something that you don't do until late game. You want to hold on to these. However, as it is right now, it's easier to get chisels. 4 blacksmith whetstones on a gavel, stonebreaker, or a stone hammer, plus like any kind of map will net you a chisel. The boxes, the artisan boxes also drop chisels. They drop chisels in maps. If you group up, you can pretty much accumulate some of the higher maps, and you can like run each other's maps, and you will get the currency. Like if you're 6 people in a map, this will increase the quantity on the map, so it's going to increase the amount of chisels you get out of one map. So you can take a little bit, like you can join other people's in their maps, and you can accumulate some wealth, and you can apply it to your maps, and then you can invite some of them, and they can get some, so they can roll their maps in turn. So by doing this in some maps can give you more benefit per map. So getting chisel is something that's become increasingly more easy, but still very, very important. I only chisel right now 77, 78, but this is because of cartographer boxes. Cartographer boxes right now is a box that only drops maps. You can roll them to roll additional items, and you can roll them to roll plus level. So the plus level means that the maps dropped out of the box will have an additional extra level applied to them. At least this is how it seems. So if you have a 71 map and it has +5, if it drops like 10 71 maps and they all get +5, then you have 10 76 maps. I went from 68 to 72 to 77 in around 1 hour. And this is also something I want to address. Like, where do you spend your currency? Right now you want to spend your currency on boxes only. You want to, of course, roll these blue with pack size or a high quant, whatever you can deal with, and then you want to apply the chisels as well, because what's most important right now is that you're able to run them. With the invaders that are very, very dangerous, you don't want to run the maps very hard, because the potential of dying, especially in invasion, is just too high. Even without the cartographer boxes, you need to be very careful in terms of how you roll the map. In general, what I would recommend is that you would rather run a high quantity of maps over the quality of maps, because the quality of maps also mean the difficulty of maps. It is very difficult to run a map with high quantity without it having dangerous mods on it. So you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk. If you look at it this way, if you want 100% quantity on a map, what you could do instead is just run two maps. Because 2 maps is 100 quantity, right? It's the maps 2 times over. So if you have like a ton of 71 maps, well, should you roll these to get 100 quantity? Or should you roll these to just get some quantity, make them super easy, and you just run 2 of them in quick succession? You see, this is what I do. I don't mind having to run 1 or 2 tiers lower for an extended duration of time. Like I ran a ton of 66, 67, 68, 69, and I accumulated a lot of the higher ones. Then I started to roll the higher ones a little bit better. But it doesn't actually take you too long to get to the point where you can get these 75 plus maps. Just by running the blue, I will guarantee you, if you run enough, you will get your way all the way there. And then you can start chiseling, and maintaining a base of maps at 75 to 78 is actually not that difficult. If you chisel every single one of them, at least if you chisel 76 plus every time, and this can be done, at least 77 plus, but 76 plus is probably where you want to do it, especially if you, because I was limited by not being able to trade. If you can trade, this is not a hard thing to do. If you get a large enough map base, there comes a point where you don't even want to chisel 76 maps anymore. But that's because with spending more time mapping, you accumulate a larger amount of maps. So what tends to happen is this. Okay, I start out. Okay, let's say we get to the 70 stage, right? So we start out with like 10 69 maps. We run all of them. We now have 5 70s and 2 71s. Let's assume that we run the 71s and this the 71s and the 70s. We get the same amount of 70s again. Like we end up with the same amount of 69s and 70s as we did before. We now have a few 72s, and then we go back a little bit. We run all those again, and we accumulate more, right? And we can you can kind of see how you can build, because you will always you will slowly but surely build a higher base where you will accumulate behind you more and more maps, and so these become your stepping stones. As you can see here, like I haven't run 71 maps forever. I might run out of all my 77, 78s. Let's assume I didn't have cartographer boxes. I would run out of all these, maybe run out of all my 75s. But before I run out of all my 75s, I will have accumulated so many 74s and 73s that I don't even know what to do with them. And it won't take me too long until I get back into 75, 6, 7, and 8. And this is very important to understand, because sometimes you get on sprees, but if you have a fallback just a few tiers below, it doesn't really matter, because that fallback is going to grow and grow and grow. So if you're just consistent with this, you'll definitely get up there. One thing I will recommend is like rolling pack size, rolling magic. Rares is not that great because it doesn't increase your map drops that much, and it doesn't really increase your XP that much. It's okay if you want to go for the +2, especially on the nuts, like on the lower maps. Getting rares, I would just roll with it, because it's a mod that only increases your map drops without really adding any danger at all. So pack size, high quant, run them just so you can, like, as much quant as you can, but you can just steer clear of all the harder mobs. The thing is, the difference between 35 and 40 quant might be a very dangerous affix, but really 35 to 40, that is so minuscule. It is so minuscule that it's not worth the risk. Even 10% extra is not worth the risk, and it's not worth the amount of alterations you would have to roll. So if you can just get a little bit of quant, if you get the occasional high magic, high pack size, and as you go up in levels, it becomes more and more important that you roll them higher and higher, to the point where you only want to get like the 40 plus on like the highest maps. Then you're gonna do just fine. So if you have any questions about maps, if you want to know even more, if you can't find the info, come on my stream or go write a comment below. Check out the forums, and I'll guarantee you that mapping is gonna be a breeze and you're gonna enjoy it in no time. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time.